Okay, you're muted there. Welcome to Salt Lake Takes. I'm your host, Jared Cook, back here with another Thursday. Uh, Sorry, we were lost off track there. Okay, so we're back here. First episode went really well. Back here, uh, not as much news to really report this go around. It's kind of getting to that point in the NBA offseason where most of the news has pretty much died down at this point. You have guys like Damian Lillard and like James Harden, still kind of requesting out and still getting things worked in on that end. But for the most part, most of the news pretty much died down. So I thought it was, a good time to look at like what we can expect moving forward, and that being trades. Everyone likes seeing trades go down, especially in the NBA. Super big thing. So this go around. Oh, so, all right, cool. All right. Yeah. So I thought it'd be a good idea to come in and look at some trades that could end up, possibly happening up down the lines. What some people are proposing going into next season, as far as maybe before season or trade deadline. A few different options the Jazz could go. The Jazz have positioned themselves really nicely in terms of collecting assets and flexibility. So as far like the front office taking that patient approach um, at this point, but you could expect them to make maybe one or two moves on the line, especially towards this year's trade deadline, with a bunch of different moving pieces and roster flexibility. But I saw a few trades floating around online from different publications on Twitter or just anywhere else, and I wanted to take a look at them and see just what I would do if I were the GMC. Like, are these some good trades? Are these some reasonable trades? Should the Jazz say no? Yes. The other team say no. Blah blah blah. So what people like when they're looking at trades, they like to put in their own opinion. So I'll do the same here. So we have about 5 trades I'm looking at. If you guys have any type of other trades you have, feel free to send those in the comments below. We'd love to hear those. But yeah, let's dive into our first one here. Let me figure out how to add this one to the stream. All right, here we go. Let me maybe. Okay, cool. So this is the one. This one that maybe you've seen if you've looked at our content here on Sports Illustrated, and it's one that I caught from Dan Favale of Bleacher Report. A little bit of a crazy one, I would say, to start off. You got Lauri Markkanen here for Jaime Jaquez, Duncan Robinson, and it looks like 2 first-round picks. In return for Lauri Markkanen, the Jazz's All-Star. It goes without saying, I like Jaime Jaquez as a prospect. I think Duncan Robinson can end up being pretty good. He showed his value later in this finals this year, but I don't even touch this trade, really. I don't even think this deserves any consideration here. I think this extremely undermines the value that Lauri Markkanen ends up bringing to the table. He was a 25 point per game scorer last year. Great efficiency, 8 rebounds a game. Not much of a playmaker, not much of a defender, but what he brings in the offensive end. Stable 25 point per game guy, at least for his first season in Utah. Hopefully looking to add more to that going forward. But selling out on that for Jaime Jaquez, Duncan Robinson, 2 first-round picks is something that I wouldn't do. And I don't know if any Jazz fan would look at this and be like, "Oh yeah, that's a good trade." It's not. I don't think this is anywhere close to being a fair deal. Of course, if you're a Heat fan, you love this deal. I mean, you're getting Lauri Markkanen an All-Star for practically nothing. This is what Damian Lillard's getting offered for right now for the Heat, and they're not even close to accepting that. So I don't even think this would be in consideration for Lauri Markkanen. And especially with those first round picks, if you're trading a guy like Lauri Markkanen, I know he just had one good season, but 2 protected first round picks from the Heat is all you're going to get from him? No. Now he's worth a little bit more than that. I don't see this trade being anything that the Jazz would entertain. I think instead of trying to sell off your assets, I think it'd be smarter to maybe uh, just come in and actually add to the roster instead of selling out. I know we have a ton of first round picks, to work with, but I'm not sure if this is the right move to go. We got a question from Chad here. See if it pops up here. What kind of money will the Jazz have to pony up to re-sign Markkanen? Hopefully a good amount. Looking into it, so if you're looking at next offseason, you'll be paying Clarkson the bulk of your cap this year. But next year you have 10 million of his money off the books. You have about 12 million from Clarkson, or not Clarkson, sorry, Olynyk come off the books as well. So that's easily 20 million right there, about freed up. They can allocate to Markkanen if you really wanted to. But yeah, I think that the Jazz should really have not much of a problem trying to re-sign Markkanen. There are already some reports coming out of them trying to, come to renegotiation and extend. But yeah, I think the Jazz probably have what it takes to re-sign Markkanen. I would hope so. I hope, maybe if you don't have the type of money to re-sign him, which it doesn't look like that right now, maybe you look at a deal trying to sell off on him. But that's not what I do right here. I would say a resolute no here, considering the Jazz do have the kind of money to come and re-sign him for, which should be two off seasons is when he's up. Thank you for the question, Chad. I always appreciate it. But yeah, I think this one goes without saying. There's a hard no, hard pass. We can move on to the next one, I feel, and see where that one takes us. Let's see. Which one we're going to look at here? Let's go to Twitter. Let's go to this Laker proposal. So let's see. That works. All right, great. So this one right here is a three-way trade, more of an advanced deal. I haven't looked too much into this one, kind of just grabbed this one and want to talk about it on here. Lakers get Buddy Hield, Daniel Tyson, a second rounder. Pacers, looks like John Collins already out here. Jared Vanderbilt, Jalen Hood-Schifino. The Jazz get D'Angelo Russell and a second rounder. I guess this one also comes from Bleacher Report, it seems. But yeah, already shipping out John Collins would be a pretty significant move, especially considering you just brought him in about a month or two ago. And it would be, I don't know it doesn't detail which of the second round picks this would be here, but essentially it looks on the face as you get a second round pick and you part with John Collins. And yeah, that's about it. Hold on, let me double check. Okay. I was like, wait, Jared Vanderbilt, was this an outstanding trade? No, this is a current, this is a current trade. But yeah, this one, it isn't as bad as the first deal. By far, definitely not as bad as the first deal. Because I think this is more of an even trade. Let's see. The Lakers get Buddy Hield, Daniel Tyson, a second rounder. They're giving up some young assets. I don't know how much this gives the shooting that you'd want the Lakers to have for sure, but you're still giving up three good, valuable role pieces there. I don't know if the Lakers end up doing this trade. The Pacers have been trying to get off Buddy Hield for a while, so I don't see why they wouldn't do this trade, I guess, especially for three. I think the Pacers win this deal by a mile. Good Lord. And I think the Pacers absolutely get a fleece with this one. The Jazz, it seems more of like a lateral move here. I don't hate this deal because I'm a D'Angelo Russell homer. I've always been a big fan of D'Angelo Russell since entering the league. I know his recent playoff series would have you suggest he's one of the worst players in the league. I think, take him in the regular season, consistently he's been around an 18 point per game guy, so he would be a nice scorer for the Jazz. But is it worth giving up John Collins? Or is it even practical to give up John Collins? I'm not sure because the Jazz already have a lot of depth at that point guard position, and even shooting just guard position in general, and try and iron out before the season even starts. So for you to come in and be like, all right, let's get rid of another forward to bring on another guard to help kind of make that even more complicated. I don't really see that being a deal the Jazz would make. I think value for value, maybe if you're comparing the better player, maybe D'Angelo Russell might be the slightly better player, but it's real close there. It's not too hard to debate either way. But yeah, I don't think this is really an outstanding move the Jazz could end up making. If they made it, I wouldn't really be opposed to it at all. As I really like D'Angelo Russell, but the fit on the Jazz team right now just doesn't make a ton of sense. But yeah, for the Lakers, I think this is a questionable deal. You get a second round pick, but what good's that going to do you? I know Buddy Hield would be great for that team, but again, you're getting up a great defender in Vanderbilt, a rookie, and Hood-Schifino and D'Angelo Russell. And Buddy Hield, I don't know how old he is at this point, but he's got to be getting close to 30. He's a lot older than you'd expect. So that's maybe a few good years of Buddy Hield added to the roster, but I don't know. I don't know if I do that for the Lakers. I don't know if I do that for the Jazz. The Pacers, though, I would definitely do this deal. I think at fits their timeline extremely well. Gives them essentially everything they'd want in a deal. I'd say this a 1 for 3 here from Bleacher Report 1 again. All right, so that's 2 we got the bat. We got 3 more. Let's look at let's stray away from Bleacher Report for one time. Let's go to clutch points. Let's look at this one they offer. Let's share this tab instead. All right, works out well. This trade here, we have the Jazz getting back Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton, and a first-round pick in 2029 for Colin Sexton. I don't hate it. I mean, you're getting a first-round pick back, and you're getting Grayson Allen back to the team. I wonder how fans feel about that. And Pat Connaughton, another. But again, this adds a first-round pick, and maybe it adds some wing depth. But again, these are 2 guys that could end up playing shooting guard and end up causing more of a logjam there, especially when you have guys like Sensabaugh and Keontae George coming in wanting to take those minutes and progress with the team. Adding 2 guys like Grayson Allen and Pat Connaughton, this is more about the first round pick than it would be the 2 guys, because I don't know what their contract situation looks like. It can't be that dire. But yeah, this one is, I'd probably be more inclined to take this one over the past 2, but still, I think a lot of fans are probably pinning Sexton to be that one guy to be moved, if anyone. I can understand it because he's on such a team-friendly deal for the next 3 years, and scoring's always going to be a valuable asset in this league. And the Bucks were pretty pinned or connected to Sexton, so I get this trade all the way through because it does fit the mold of what both teams would probably want in a deal. If I had to say yes or no on this deal, I mean, it's a first-round pick. You don't know what the future of Giannis holds for Milwaukee, and it is top 8, so it's not that high of a ceiling of a pick. But I'd take this one over the Lakers deal. I'd definitely take this one over the Heat deal. I'd say of the 3 trades we've looked at right now, this is probably the best one. I wouldn't think that's much of a stretch. Grayson, I mean, yeah, you get Grayson Allen back. He's probably on the team for maybe 2 years before he ends up moving elsewhere. None of these guys are going to be staples for the roster, but you do get that first-round pick, which we know Danny Ainge has loved at this point in the offseason, or at this point in the rebuild in general. But yeah, I would say okay to this deal. I don't think it's anything that I think people are all hands on deck for, but nothing too outrageous. I think Sexton would actually be a good addition to the Bucks. I think he adds more youth to that team that they desperately need. And I think that's what you're giving them that first round pick for. That core is really old, and I think once you're getting into maybe later in the year and maybe even next season, if you're looking that far into it, it's gonna be harder to surround Giannis with like this core group of guys that's going to be consistently playable and consistently reliable. I think Sexton can probably fit that mold more, given that he's younger and has more time to progress than some of the other older guys they have on their roster moving forward. But yeah, I think the Bucks probably, did the Bucks say yes to this deal? That's the question. Probably, yeah. I would say so. I mean, it's a low risk first round pick and 2 rotational guys for what can be a 20-point per game scorer at his peak. Like we've seen it before. That's not a crazy statement to say. But yeah, I think this one's all right. And I would probably, I might lean towards no for now, especially because I want to see what we get out of Sexton before we end up shipping him out real too early. But no, I would probably hold off on this deal for now. I'd probably just want to wait and see. But it's not a bad deal by any means. Let's go to this Bleacher Report one here. Share this tab instead. All right, here we go. Let's read. Utah Jazz acquire Anthony Simons from the Portland Trail Blazers for Colin Sexton and a 2024 first-round pick from Minnesota. So, first of all, this pick doesn't exist. The Jazz don't have this pick, so I'm assuming this means probably another, probably 2025, as they don't have any first-round picks next year. But again, I honestly, actually, this is yeah. If it's considering like 1 first round pick from Minnesota, given that's 2025, I'm doing this trade easy. Let's see what they say about it. The Jazz decided the exchange was easy. Simon's 38.7% career clip from deep and improving playmaking shots, making him a clean fit as a starting point guard for the with Walker Kessler anchoring things beyond the rim or behind him. I can't read. I guess I'm dyslexic here. Simon's defensive deficiencies will be far less damaging than they'd be in Portland, where he'd probably be ticketed for the 3rd guard duty anyways. That does make a bit of sense for Portland. I guess I've seen a lot of players and personnel pretty high on Anthony Simons and what he could bring to a rebuilding team, especially Portland. But you do have Scoot in town now. You do have Shaedon Sharpe, so I think he probably is 3rd in that pecking order for the Blazers. So and even for his like $20 million a year, that's not really expensive in today's NBA, but that is a contract you could look at, shipping out because it is pretty substantial. Again, that's probably not a move they're looking at making right now because they're so young, but it does clear up a bit of a log jam there for Portland. For the Jazz, though, I think this is a deal you definitely make. I think the potential that you see on Simons, it's been apparent. I think it is higher than you see with Sexton. I know Sexton wasn't fully healthy last year, and I think it is probably important to see what he can provide before you're going and dealing him out. But I can't hate this. I can't hate this at all. It is only a first-round pick. Really, I mean, Sexton, you're just giving up a first-round pick, really. You're just swapping players, and you're getting Simons back in the deal, who is the better player and probably will be the better player moving forward. So here we got Planet of Jazz. I can't really. I don't speak Spanish, but appreciate the comment. But yeah, I would probably say yes to this deal. Absolutely. I don't know if this is a deal that Portland would really consider, because what does this do for Portland? Yeah, it adds a first-round pick for Minnesota, but is that pick going to turn up into any player better than Anthony Simons is right now? That's kind of hard to believe. I don't know. I mean, like, you got to think when you're trading these picks, I think the ultimate goal should be looking at like what you can look at with that player moving forward. Because yeah, of course, that first round pick looks great on the surface. Like the Jazz have 4 first round picks in a few years going forward. That looks great. But it's what can you get with those players that will end up being better than what you traded away. So for the Blazers, I don't think that first round pick or Sexton will get any better than what Anthony Simons could end up being. But no, I think this is a slam dunk for Utah. For the Blazers, not much. I would find the league and fans be puzzled by this move if they were end up making it. We got coming from Planeta here. Did you read information Sports Illustrated players have possibility to trade THT, Sexton, Montecio, and Olynyk? Yeah, I did read that. Definitely. I watched your stream end up yesterday, and I would probably say out of all these 4 guys, if I were to move one, it probably would be Olynyk. I heard Pat talking about yesterday of how he thinks, like Olynyk's probably on his way out before the trade deadline. Yeah, I think moving at least one of these guys for sure, it would be the smart move before the trade deadline, because you got to look at guys like THT and Olynyk. They're on, I think Fontecchio too. They're all on expiring deals, and given the amount of young talent that's progressing, given the amount of cap space they'll have, I don't find it to be that realistic to have all 4 of these guys back, or all 3 of them, not including Sexton. But I would probably deal out Olynyk. I like Olynyk as a player. I've been a fan of Olynyk. But I think considering that he is a veteran player on a 1-year deal, and it's a very, like coveted, forgetting the word, coveted expiring contract, sorry, that could be a target for teams down the road, whether that end up being for like a young player or a first-round pick or a second-rounder. That's some assets that you can capitalize on rather than actually losing them in free agency for nothing. Same with THT. I know I heard Pat yesterday was definitely especially high on THT, but I think THT is stuck in a bad situation right now in Utah because you do have guys like Sexton and Clarkson and Keontae George especially that are coming in and going to command a lot of those minutes and opportunity, which kind of forces THT in this box sort of that's going to be hard for him to get out of. And so, like, yes, it would be great to see him kind of develop in like this really lengthy, like versatile two-way player, versatile two-way starting point guard for the Jazz. But I don't know about it. I don't think you really have that opportunity here for the Jazz, because you want to see Keontae George grow more than anyone probably in that guard rotation. You're not going to prioritize THT, especially given that he's on an expiring deal. You don't know what you're going to get out of him unless you're able to get that long-term commitment and that that indication that he does have that potential to have that long-standing in the league. I don't think you really have any incentive to keep on the roster more than for the next year. And Fontecchio is another guy. It's like, expiring, might not get a lot of value out of him if he leaves. And then I'd go off that. I think Sexton you keep for a year, see what you get out of him, and then THT, Fontecchio, Olynyk, you probably do that. Thank you for the comment, though. Always appreciate it. If you guys have any trade ideas of your own to drop in here, or some that you've seen, let me know. React to it just as these that were shown on live. I think we got another one to show up here. Let me double check. We do. Okay, this one's a little bit more interesting. I haven't seen this one as projected. Get this one up. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sweet. This one is Colin Sexton and 3 first-round picks for OG Anunoby. This is more of like a buying move, trying try and like capitalize and try and make that push significantly next season. And it is a big price to give for OG, and I don't know if that's one that you want to, pay, especially for 3 first-round picks. Think about the guys that you're gonna have. Let me get this out here. Yeah. Think about the guys that you're gonna have coming up on the trade market within the next few years. Dude, we have an ad just displayed here. Get this off my screen. It's everywhere. Okay. We're just gonna have to deal with this. Okay. Now you can't even see the trade, dude. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Maybe let's do that. That's fine. Whatever chair ads going down there, they can have fun with that. But yeah, I think this is a steep price to pay, but probably what you're going to be paying for OG Anunoby in a hypothetical trade. I think this is probably something that I think this is something that absolutely Toronto would at least consider because they have been looking for that type of package for OG. You have seen that those type of rumors going around that that's the asking price, the high asking price for OG because he has that type of um, he has that type of potential. But that's a lot, and I think considering you have guys on the line like let's say a Luka or a Shea. I don't know, Shea might be, but like some of these younger point guards on the roster, or even like young wing players that are just developing, might be a better prospect that you can get in Olenek or not Olenek. OG. I think if you're pulling all your chips in one basket for OG, that might be a bit of like what we saw the Hawks do with DeJounte Murray a few years back. They traded 3 first-round picks in order to acquire like a big piece in DeJounte Murray, try and pull all their chips in one basket. And that hasn't really worked out for them as of yet. And it's like you're banking on potential with these 3 first-round picks. You don't know what you're getting. So OG, I know he has a ton of potential. I know a ton of teams like him, but I think 3 first-round picks at this point, until you see that he can be a reliable like second to third option, I don't see this being a trade that the Jazz really entertain. At least right now, it's not the worst deal. It's better than the Heat deal we saw earlier. But yeah, not sure. Not sure if this trade on for Anunoby, if Donovan will leave the Cavs or rumors would want to move. Yeah. Yeah, no, especially that. Yeah, this is a great thing to consider. Yeah, great point. So especially with like Cleveland and Donovan Mitchell might not be working out. You don't know what these picks could turn into for Cleveland. So if you're pulling in, let's say, a 2025 pick from Cleveland, that you don't know what that could. That probably not that far down the line. Yeah, 2025 wouldn't be that bad because you expect that the Cavs to be still pretty good. But again, if you're dealing those Cavs picks or even Timberwolves picks, you're selling pretty low on what those picks could end up becoming because you haven't seen what that team could end up developing into. That team can end up having some flaws down the line, and they can end up being a top 5 pick. They're pretty unprotected picks, not very restrictive on those. So I think if you're pooling, so like this isn't that big of a deal because you're dealing, Utah's picks. Like you got Utah, Minnesota, Cleveland. So you're getting like 1-1-1 out of all these picks from the pool here. I still wouldn't really do much, like consider much of it. We got Gerard saying, "With Collins, Hendricks, we do not need to know me." That's a great point. See, yeah, I think they'll probably play more of that 4 role when you have Anunoby more in that wing defender kind of role. But I think there's a lot of pieces on the roster that you wouldn't really need to exert that amount of value to get back Anunoby. Sexton, KO be traded for sure. Yeah, I think Kelly for sure will get traded. I think Kelly he's on that expiring deal. I think it's hard to kind of keep him on past next year and hope for him to resign. That's kind of selling short on his value. Sexton, I think you give him at least a year to, all right, let's say half the season. Give him half the season to see what he's doing fully healthy without much restriction. See if he's fully capable of maybe being the starting point guard. Hold out some hope there. If that doesn't end up working out, I think you move him past that. Right now, though, I'd probably actually hold off from Sexton just because you don't know what you can get. You don't know if you're getting the 14 points per game and like the lower ceiling type of scorer you got last year. But yeah, I don't know if I'd really deal him yet, considering that you might not have seen the best come from Sexton. Got a huge log jam at point guard, shooting guard. Yeah, I would agree, and that's why I probably would opt to maybe dealing one of those guards in the future. I would probably opt towards trading Horton-Tucker over Sexton for the same reason of Olenek, that he's on that expiring deal, and I don't know if the Jazz are end up re-signing him, given that they have that logjam. But you have someone like Colin Sexton who's on a contract for 3 more years. You probably likely have that security over like the unpredictable with Talen Horton-Tucker. But yeah, I think that huge logjam does present a problem for the Jazz moving forward. Like right now, it's fine because you're going into the season, you're still getting everything kind of ironed out. But guys like even Chris Dunn on the roster could may not get that a ton of opportunity like you'd like to see next season, and could end up getting moved because there's just simply not enough minutes to go around for the position. Because let's say Keontae George ends up turning up like he did in summer league, you're not gonna want to play Talen Horton-Tucker big minutes to try and develop him. You see what you have in Keontae George, you want to develop him, not really spray out the path. That should be really the main priority going forward. We got playing out of back. I think we need a veteran point guard for helping Keontae. His ankle leaves George and play on his position. I think this could actually help because I think that veteran point guard could really help the roster, or even just a veteran playmaker, because you have a lot of guards in the roster that don't offer that type of playmaking. And I have heard Locked On Jazz, they were over there saying that I think it was, I forget which one in the front office, but the Jazz essentially view the traditional point guard as more as an outdated piece of an NBA offense. Like they want that length and the versatility, and it shows with the additions they made across the offseason. But I think adding that veteran point guard could help accelerate these younger guys that aren't much of a playmaker, like let's say Sexton or Keontae, into that playmaker and that distributor. I think that could definitely help his progression moving forward. Considering that he showed a little bit of flashes in summer league, but you want to be able to translate that consistency. So one thing that Keontae George wasn't really good at in college was keeping consistency, and I think that you need a veteran in the locker room because you don't have one right now besides Jordan Clarkson. He's 31, about to be one of the oldest on the roster besides Kelly Olynyk. So I think you do need some more veteran presence in that locker room to help guide these young guys, especially. Everyone's sleeping on Dunn. I tend to agree. My thing is on Chris Dunn is that, yes, he is a good player. He had a career year last year, and I think he could be a lower end starter in the league. The problem is I don't know his long-term future with the Jazz is apparent in any sort of way. Because you look at him, he was a 2016 top 5 pick, but he's almost 30 years old at this point in his career. He's not going to be sticking on the Jazz for more than, let's say, 2 seasons, or being a starter for the Jazz for any more than, let's say, the beginning of the next season. So I really do like Chris Dunn as a piece of the Jazz roster. If they were being fully competitive right now, I would tend to lean towards Dunn a little bit more than I would right now. But given that there's just so much talent there at the position for Utah, I don't know how much opportunity he's going to get because he is on that non-guaranteed deal. And I think if the Jazz are looking at it like on paper, you'd rather give the opportunity to guys that are going to have a long-standing, on that roster besides the guy that might be out as soon as next year. Gerard back with he mentors George this year. He's definitely better than the whole guard group. I'd say right now, if you're looking at a full, complete guard, he is definitely. I think it's between. That's tough. It's like I think I'd probably take Clarkson over Chris Dunn as a better player right now, and Sexton is pretty close. But you do have a point. At this point right now, I might take Chris Dunn over a few other players in the league. Yeah, okay. Clarifying here. Sorry, got to mix up. Defense is better. Yes, absolutely. Yes, defense is definitely better, and I think that's definitely that's a point that Pat hit on last night on the Inside the Jazz podcast. Make sure to tune into that on Wednesdays. But he was saying that if you're looking at the Jazz last year and you're looking at some of the production they were going up against as far as the guard talent went, every other guard that they were going up against was having career nights against the Jazz. Why is that? It's because that they don't have a defender to really match up with them. You have Clarkson in that rotation, you had Conley in that rotation, and you had Colin Sexton in that rotation. Neither of those three at this point in their career are that positive defender that you'd like. So I think you're going to look at Chris Dunn for that defender. If you're trying to be competitive, move early on, which is why you could see him as a starter. But long term, I find it hard to him to have this established role in the league. If he keeps up production, like he did last season, definitely going to keep a standing in the league like he wasn't able to do earlier in his career. For the Jazz, I think it's a little tough. Thank you, Gerard, for the subscription. Everything helps here. Trying to grow a good base here. Appreciate the support. Dunn is good finals. Did good at final last season, but I have dudes. All right, get dudes. But he'd have a good end of last season, which I think is why you'll see a lot of Jazz fans really high on him, especially some reporters. You'll see them saying that he's probably the favorite to start going into starting next season. Um, Dunn starts, only plays 15 minutes per game. So yeah, I get on board with this. I think he starts. I'd be completely fine with him starting right off rip for the opener because that insinuates that you're being as competitive as possible. You're putting out the best 5-man team and best fit that you can. But you're going into the season and things might not be if things kind of turn up and turn awry. I would probably lean towards the younger guys and try and develop that over Dunn. And probably honestly, I think it might be an idea if you're going to go this route, get Dunn's trade value up in the process. He's on a non-guaranteed deal last year of his deal. Play him now, get his value up, let teams see that he is able to, be a starting point guard in the league now again. And then you capitalize on his value because he's not going to be a long-term piece of this roster. Probably not. Maybe. I wouldn't hate it at all. But in terms of his age, you might not get what you really want out of your starting point guard for long term. But yeah, I think we got some agreements here. Thank you. I think if you are looking at it, I think if you have that value of Dunn, because he could probably be like a 10-point per game scorer, like he was in the end of last. Maybe it might be harder. Yeah, and 20 minutes per game might be a little bit harder to find that offensive role. But I mean, you can at least see his capabilities as a defender, maybe as a playmaker. If it's better than anyone else in the Jazz roster, might as well give him a shot. Even if it's not, at the beginning of next season, at least somewhere down the line, I could see Dunn getting a ton of, or not a ton, but some good experience to try and elevate that trade value. And that might be what a lot of the season's about for the Jazz because they don't really have that that direction where they're going, where it's like, okay, we're rebuilding, okay, we're contending. They're kind of just seeing how things play out, and if you start Dunn, that's exactly what you're getting. So yeah, I don't hate this idea at all. Honestly, you kind of talked me into it. I was kind of like, why would we start Chris Dunn? I could see the vision now. It's kind of like you're kind of putting your chips in, and it's like, let's see what we got. And if that doesn't work out, you ship off. You ship him off. You ship Olenek off. You ship THT off. Some 3 expiring deals or something like that. Maybe not all 3 of them, but something like that, and regroup for next season. Maybe pull off some assets in for a star player. That could be the route that the Jazz would be going. But yeah, that might be close to about all I have. All right, we'll get this from Gerard, and then we'll probably head out. Also, I think THT is a secret weapon. He gets 3-point up. He can be killer. I wrote about this. Let me here before we head out. Let me go into a little bit on Talen Horton-Tucker. If I can pull up this roster or this article real quick. 1 second. All right, here we go. Should this time so. Load. Okay. Maybe if it can work. All right, sweet. All right, so we got this. One thing I would say about Talen Horton-Tucker, I think at his peak, he can definitely be one of the better players on the Jazz moving forward. Like at his best, look at his stats here: 10.7 points, 3.2 rebounds, 3.8 assists, under 20 minutes a game. Got really good physicals, and it's the build you'd want in that modern prototypical point guard. The problem is he's not that efficient of a creator. I think, or that's true. That's true. I would say that he's not that efficient of a creator that you'd like to see. Okay, I just kind of exited that out. All right, cool. He's not that type of creator that you want to see from a long-term point guard. He was averaging more assists than you'd like, or more turnovers. Sorry, a little more turnovers than you'd appreciate. And he wasn't really like this go-to option until down the stretch when he was getting a lot of volume. Like, yeah, I think he could be an okay point guard, but until he gets that efficiency set up as a point guard, I don't really see much there. Yeah, I think the 3-point could definitely use some beneficiary. Let's see. THC, happy with William, put it point guard, so it's going to trend that someone would be better at position. That would definitely help. And if he can put those tools together to become that long-term point guard, all power to him. I think one thing that he could look at doing if he's not going to be that point guard, if things don't work out on that end, he can be a really, really good 3-and-D type of player. If he can get that 3-point up, he has the length and versatility to shift over 1 and 2. He can be a really good guard defender. He's a 7'1" wingspan. And like, yeah, he has that upside on offense, but I think really as a defender is where you could really, capitalize his value there because, that 7'1" wingspan on a 6'4" guard doesn't come around often. And Gerard saying he needs work, but his drives to the basket at the top percent of the league, which is why, So if he can, if he's driving the basketball, he's already doing that. Gets that 3-point up, and then he's able to become more efficient of a creator. That is really all you want in that type of guard as a starter. but I'm not sure if the ceiling is as high on THT as you'd like it to be. Turnovers need to come down. This is what I mean. Turnovers do need to come down significantly because if you're looking at, let's see, hold on, let me reference my article back. Yeah, he was averaging three and a half turnovers a game, man. You can't have that as a starting point guard. That's not going to translate to winning basketball. But if you're taking the ball away from his hands and trying to use him as a secondary scorer, maybe off the ball a little bit more, and using him more on the defensive side of the ball, that can be a lot more effective than if you were going to try and force him into this role as a point guard. Because yes, 7-foot wingspan, really, like, if he can get that shot down and if he can get all these things down, he can be really good. But he's been in the league for who knows how long. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if you can really depend on him to make that type of jump at this point, which is why I'm kind of lower on THT than some may be. Size is a nightmare for other teams. If he's a backup point guard, exactly. I think he can excel in that secondary role because he doesn't have that type of he doesn't have that type of responsibility in the offense to try and create for others. If he can utilize that defensive versatility and work with the second unit more, maybe become the point guard of that unit rather than the starter, I think it takes a lot of pressure off him and puts him in a better position to succeed as a player and his role. Like I think he has that type of build to be really good in the NBA, but I think the ceiling is a bit lower than you'd like. But yeah, size is definitely a nightmare. 6'4", 7'1", doesn't come around often. But I think when you look at it, you got Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton, Keontae George, and Chris Dunn to all give minutes to. I think expecting that massive of a jump in his production with limited opportunity is going to be hard to come by. But it would be encouraging to see, and it'd be something I'd love to see because I think seeing a 6'4" point guard that can, has that demigod wingspan would be super fun to watch. But yeah, I would hope for some progression there, but if not, we got a ton of different options to look for. But that's probably going to be about it for me tonight. Thank every one of you all for tuning in. Gerard, got plenty of jazz. Appreciate y'all stopping by for the chat. We'll be back not next Thursday. We won't be back next Thursday. Got to take a week off there, be in Seattle then. But the week after that, we are on full grind, full pace. We'll be here every week on Thursdays, same time. Make sure to stick by, and we'll be producing better and better content every episode. Every episode will be getting a little bit better. And it'll be a nice little podcast or whatever you want to call it. This might not even be a podcast, more of like a show. Maybe Keontae can play as a lineup with the Baji, Markkanen, and Collins Kessler. Yes, I'm all for this. I think long term this could be the route that the Jazz were going. And then you bench THT and Young. That's a really good defensive backcourt. And I just kind of question. No, Abaji can probably pick it up on the defensive side in the front court. Appreciate it, Gerard. Pretty close. Switch to A and the E, and we're pretty much similar. So you pretty much be one on that. And then Andrew, appreciate it. Thanks for the nice job. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all this week. Appreciate y'all for stopping by. Make sure to tune in. Should be sometime in August. We'll be back for sure. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for watching. That's all I got. See ya.